Hello everybody. Good morning. Today I am going to show you how to draw and color or paint over a cat. Uh, this one I am thinking, since you guys have a lot of questions and comment from the previous video, I'm going to try to take something very simple and applying the light to it. So in the beginning, we are going to apply, we're gonna draw first, right, to create the simple shape as a simple cat stylized design. Then we can apply some lighting to it, which is going to be the ambient light, which I will explain to you in the breakdown video. And then we can add the directional lighting. So hopefully you guys can understand how the lighting and form works and how the geometry applying to the form works. This will be a very simple tutorial, but if you get a hang of it, then you can apply this to all kinds of complex character design or a human or creature or any stuff with more detail. The idea is to get the big picture of the form. Once you get the hang of how to get the big form and the character and how to apply the lighting on there, then everything should be simple. And again, first I'm going to break down my thought process and work process and the workflow. Then you're going to see the video process of how I am doing the whole thing with the commentary. All right, guys, if you have any question, post them down in the comments, and you just want to say hi, also post them down in the comment. Yeah, enjoy your coffee. Bye-bye. All right, today we are going to draw and paint a simple cat. So in this video, I am going to break down my process or my thought process to you guys and explain to you what is the appropriate way to, or the easiest way to making this cat sort of illustration, painting, coloring, lighting and everything. So basically you have to understand lighting is everything in painting. Basically, without light you wouldn't be able to see color, you wouldn't be able to see shadow, or it wouldn't even be form. So anyways, first we're gonna start looking at the drawing. Basically this is the best drawing of a cat, and I'm just going to turn off the background here. Whoops, I can't really see, but okay. So I start out with the very basic drawings, which I'm going to include that in the video also, then I start filling in the simple shape right there, and I slowly get rid of the line work. And when you start off with just, it's basically, if you see my video tutorial on starting with shape, it's basically the same thing here. I'm just the line drawing are just, to me, it's just an additional process. And if I know exactly what I'm doing, I don't really need the line. I just need the shape, and I can create it from there, and sort of giving it a form and retweaking design using the light and shadow. If you're the beginner, that might sound a little complicated. So you can just kind of stick with the drawing and then filling in the shape inside the line, right? And the eyes, I kind of change it a little bit afterwards. So it would look a little more menacing, I guess. A little more mean, like a mean cat, right? So, and then after that, I just use a layer mask to create, actually I adding the additional color or color marking for the cat first. Like some cat has the color marking on the face or something like that. It depends on the type of the cat. Then I just start rendering. Basically, the render here, if you can notice, it's kind of, I'm still slow in Procreate. In Photoshop I'm a lot faster. So basically these are let me try to explain to you guys really quick. The head shape is a squish sphere. So you have the ball and you squish it, and then you have like the lighting is coming from here, top 45-degree angle, and then that if it was gloss, it would have the highlight there, and then the light would start going over the form there, and it will start creating shadow as it goes, as the light hit the surface. And say if you look at the light here, right, and this is a sphere, and the light will hit past the sphere, and then will create some sort of a form, and this is called Terminator, and this is where the Terminator sort of happened, where the light would hit it. If this is a three-dimensional form, and then it's starting to create a shadow, but usually it will be the darkest around this area, right? And it will get a little bit lighter, but I just simplify it and sort of create like a flat color basically. So there you have like to practice this, you have to do a lot of like geometry rendering, like a sphere, a ball, or whatever. And then the body is kind of similar, but not similar in terms of like it receiving the same light source. And then this part, it's just another geometry form, right? So the light will start hitting sort of like here, and then slowly receding into the shadow as it goes downward, and you see the shadow coming up from the bottom. And the legs is part of the cylinder that intersect into this form. So that's why the lights come here, and it's strong over here. It's coming down here along the surface, the smooth surface, and it get kind of blocked there. And then you have another contour line that goes up again to face the light, is facing the light, and then down again to be a shadow. So if you look at it, say if I intersect this part, you see, suppose this is the chest, right, and this is the leg, and if I cut it horizontally, and you see this part here, and there's another leg. So the light came from here, it hit here, that's why this will receive the light, this part will receive the light, but this where it's intersect and had an abrupt change of planes will have the shadow, because the light kind of go parallel or passes this surface, but this area here is get directly hit by the light, so that's why it became lighter. It should have been a little bit lighter, but you get the point. And also this one here, that one get hit by the light, and then come down, a little bit of shadow here, and then you see the light over here. So this is basically cylinder, right? The light hits, you get that. So basically you're gonna have to practice painting a lot of geometry to be able to identify this form. And in the beginning I just use, this is what we call a ambient light, or the form, the light that created form basically. You have enough light source to create a form. It's like when you're in the overcast area, or in the area that doesn't get directly hit by the sunlight, or it doesn't have enough or strong light source, and then you have directional lighting and spotlighting and all that kind of stuff. But this is ambient light, just the area that you have enough light to get the form. And then add the background and the shadow. And when you add the later on I add the directional lighting, which is here. So the directional lighting indicates that the lighting now direction coming from the right side of the screen, maybe a little bit up, Let me redraw it. Probably that way. And they are parallel usually, because if it is the sunlight, it's going to be parallel. So, or the lighting that coming from like the natural source outside. Say this cat's it's indoor and the light came through the door, then that could possibly be how it get hit by the light. And then the direction of the light will coordinate with the direction of the shadow, right? So anyway, this is how it is. And if you want to know more about light and shadow, then I'm just going to plug my long tutorial, the ultimate digital painting for beginner. It's a package. You can go download it. The link's down below. It's on Gumroad. It's on my website, theartclass.com, and it's on cubebrush.co/Xia Taptara. Gumroad/Xia Taptara. All right, and I heard they're pretty good. So a lot of people get a lot of value from that video or from that tutorial. It's about like 20 something hours long. Anyway, so that's the directional lighting. So here is briefly, that's what I can explain to you, and the rest you gotta kind of go in and practice. Like the nose here, it got a little bit of the form that kind of poking out of the sphere basically, right? Just a little bit, and the light hit here, the light hit here. That's why it got a little bit of light there. Yeah, basically this is it, and the rest is going to be the process video of how I draw, but then I'm going to do the voiceover on top of it, so you know exactly, I'm trying to explain to you exactly what I'm doing, and then I might talk a little bit about here, there, and some additional information that you should know. Most of my tutorial, I try to stay in the topic and try to explain, and most of the time it's a related topic that you do this, right? So this type of design usually used in animation or maybe a cute video game or something like that. So, and usually I kind of do the cute stuff, but I also do the sort of the dark stuff. all right guys, I hope you guys enjoy the process video. Alright, so I start off with a blank canvas, and I will just leave the background white, and then I'm using the HB pencil and creating some shape basically. And at first I start to kind of make him a little bit too elongated and a little bit too realistic in terms of proportion and everything. Then I decided that I should kind of make him a little bit stocky, and so that he will look maybe comical but then mean at the same time, so it's kind of a little cuter. So basically you have to look at what kind of, like I'm looking at some sort of a Siamese cat or some sort of a mixed breed between, like Siamese usually have a short hair, this one sort of have like a short hair but then has a little bit more thickness of the fur to it, right? So you look at a bunch of Google and you can find a bunch of cat reference or something, and when you look at something, then you have to be able to transform it into something that you think it could look like, basically, and that's, or a caricature of a certain cat, or accentuate a certain feature of the cat, right? So I'm shortening the leg and I'm adding tail there, and it became pretty close to the final one that we have, except the final one has a little more of a triangulate face. This one still has a little bit of a cheek. In the drawing process here, just gonna lower the opacity on the sketch, and I'm making a new layer, and in this one I am going to use a thicker line, or a little more darker, and I'm just going to use the Apple Pencil feature basically in Procreate. So I draw and then I hold, and as you can see, this round shape becomes smoother. I kind of do like this feature, but then a lot of time I like the sketching or the looseness of the line a little bit more. But in terms of trying to get the solid drawing, I think, or inking basically, you can use this feature to help smooth your line in terms of curve or straight line, like what it just did over there. And sometimes I didn't really like how it couldn't really do an S curve. It could just do the C curve, or maybe I'm missing. Actually, it can't. I think it could do an S curve. I just have to go in and tweak it a little more in the modifier tool or something. So at this part, I kind of make the legs kind of stocky. I kind of like it, but I changes his belly a little bit more, because in this one I kind of give it a fur treatment, but in the final it's sort of like a flat, simpler form. Because if I start adding some fur or painting some fur, it will have an additional information that you might not need in this simple tutorial. So in this tutorial, I'm just trying to explain the drawing, the shape, and the lighting, and the basic rendering. The fur and the material, then you're gonna have to kind of work on those material study itself. If you want to skip ahead and not watching the drawing part, you can start the coloring part in the 21st minute. So you can just skip ahead if you don't want to see this, because it might be too simple for you. Or you could already draw this and you have your way of doing things, which is fine. But if any of you just want to kind of see this drawing, then stick around. I'm just gonna babbling about things. So the tail, it has like a thicker kind of thicker end of the tail and kind of slimmer or taper down. So it's kind of give that cute look of a squirrel kind of thing. And usually, sometime when you have that thick and thin of the mask, it kind of help accentuate a certain feature of the character. So this is the tricky part, the eye. I'm trying to get the eyes to look even in terms of like when the face are not too straight, it's a little bit turning off to the side or in the angle. And his eye has like a weird shape, sort of a little half moon circle, or kind of like a Batman eyes. I'm not sure what it is, but the shape's a little hard. So I spent a little bit of time trying to correct them. And eventually I changed the shape of the eyes in the end. So it kind of like a little slimmer, or uh, have a shorter height or shorter width with the long with the wider horizontal, but shorter in terms of vertical. So it looks a little more menacing. And at this point, I'm just tweaking the eyes, moving up and down, and using this modifier tool to kind of tweaking the size. And that's a good thing about the digital painting or drawing or coloring tool. As long as you know the principle, or as long as you know the foundation, the rest you should be able to apply them to any program, any software, right? Because you know which where should be the light, where there would be the shadow, or what would make the shape look good, or what would make this look correct, and how to correct certain things. So it's all about the foundation. Like when I flip the canvas here, you can already see that the head's a little bit off to the right side of the screen a little bit too much. So I need to move it back to the left a little bit more. And if I didn't flip the screen, then I might not be able to see that. Sometimes you can see things a lot more clear when you flip it left and right, right and left, or some people flip it up and down. So, but for me, I just flip it side to side, and usually I'll see what's going on, and then I'll be able to fix the problem. And all right, I guess the cat drawing is pretty much done here. Then we're gonna go ahead and do the painting. Alright, so I flip it back and I add a little kind of like a marking on his face, so that later on I would put like some darker color marking on their face like in the final. And a little bit of whisker. So and then I'm trying to select the color for the body, and I kind of want it to be sort of like a gray but with a tint of green but dark, kind of dark gray with slight green on it. So I'm trying to find the right value and right color. That's a little bit too light, and I need to darken the background a little bit so I can see the color a little bit more. Like I said, usually my video that if the background color is too light, then you will have a tendency to pick all the light color in for the character. So, but once I apply the darker hue on the background, then the rest of then that is make it easier for me to see if the value of the local color for the cat is correct, or to my liking, not correct, sorry. I guess I'm a little bit sleepy right now. All right, so I'm just gonna paint underneath the line, and I usually convert the line layer into multiply. So, and just trying to get the whole shape going on here, and then don't forget the tail. There we go. So now we have the base shape, and if you see like some of the color went over the line, I don't really care at this point. I will fix them later. But then I kind of think it might be a little bit too light, so I didn't really like it. I just make a layer mask on top of it, and then paint it to make it slightly darker than what it was. So now, so that's a clipping mask, right? On the layer, now I'm going to select the dark marking on the body with it's on another layer, and it's on the clipping mask also. So, and I'm using a little bit of texture brush, so it has like some kind of fur, suggestive fur texture on it. And I want it to be slightly darker. Could be a little darker, and the marking would happen along the earlobe and the foot also. Okay, there we go. Around the ear, another one, and then on the tip end of the foot, on tip end of the legs, and on the tip end of his tail. And I lower the opacity on the line so that I can see the shape and the color a little more clearer. So now I make a separate layer just to get the white of the eyes on top of everything, but I make it thinner. The length's about the same, but the height is shorter, and I kind of like it because
make him look a little more like, I would say, menacing or mean, perhaps, but it's kind of cute still because of the shape, I guess. So now I turn off the line so you can see the whole shape. When I see the shape, I was like, oh yeah, the shape is still not there, so I have to go back and use eraser to erase all those color that kind of went out of the line, so I would get the better or clearer shape as a whole. And I think that legs, I did erase too much on that one legs. I'm not sure. I might keep it. We'll see. And then the back legs, and he actually has another leg in the back, but it was behind that legs in the middle. So I'm just gonna erase the tail and the neck and the area around the cheek. So this part we are cleaning up basically. So once we are done cleaning up, then I'm just gonna add the iris and the pupil. I don't think we're gonna see the pupil, so just the iris enough, because sometimes too much detail is never good. Try to keep it simple, especially when your creature design has the simple form. So now I got I'm trying to decide whether I make it thinner or I keep it thick. I think I will keep it thick and same as the original width of the iris. I think that should look fine. So we got all the base shape and the eye and whatever the detail that's supposed to be in there and all the marking. In this part, we are going to make another clipping mask for these, and I am going to start applying form. So I'm just going to use multiply, and then I'm just going to pick the local color of the cat's body, and I'm just going to paint with soft brush. And I still not very, how do you say, I'm still not very proficient in trying to get this sort of similar way of stroking. Like in Photoshop, I would just do a few strokes and it would just be how I want it because I use them for a long time. And this one takes me a little while and still not really to the capability that I am able to in Photoshop. Doesn't mean that the software is not capable. It just means that I still couldn't find the touch for, like, if I want this much stroke or this much weight, it should be exactly like how I wanted it. I'm still kind of testing the weight and the accelerometer and all those things, but I mean, it's not that hard to work with. Just take a little bit longer. I'm just saying. All right, so we got the form on the body, like I explained earlier, and then I'm just going to add the cast shadow right below his head. and it's going to be on the same layer. Oh wait, I'm just going to add using eraser to erase some of the form of the legs. I'm just testing it out right now, because when I use erasers, some like previously it get a little too white out, or a little bit too much on the erasing side, and I'm trying to find a balance. So it's gonna take me a couple of trials to see if how much opacity do I need to erase it to the point that I like. So I think right there that should be okay on that legs, and I might erase it a little bit on the chest. So there we go. So I just use eraser to erase some of the shadow out, because some part of it the light hits it. All right, so before I go on to the head and adding some light and shadow up there, I'm just gonna add some darker shadow around the left side of the screen on the cats, and then on the bottom to add like some occlusion or darker shadow there. Now just using, and if you notice, I forgot to mention, I alternate between soft edge and hard edge brush and default, so I haven't used any fancy brush yet, and I already import my brush set from Photoshop, and I use some of them. I still haven't used them all, and at this point I'm just creating the darker value there on the bottom of the cat, some darker shadow, and then I'm going to make the selection of the cat. Let's see, just selection there, trying to find it. There we go. Yeah, but I selected the outside. I want to select the cat. So okay, there we go. That's just the body, and you can see the selection that I picked. Then I'm just gonna make another. So basically, this selection and clipping mask, they can be used for like as a substitute, right? So I can use clipping mask, or I can just use the shape selection, same as in Photoshop. And now I'm adding a cast shadow on the bottom of his head or the neck area, right? Then maybe I should make it darker and make some of the edge a little harder, especially the one that are closer to the light. You have the harder edge, and the one that's kind of longer, and the cast shadow kind of went a little further out, it will get softened. So like the one that are closer to the object that is cast will be the darkest, and the one that's like touch it, like if the shadow touch the object, like cast right below like the bottom of the foot of the cat, then it will be really dark, because those are going to be occlusion. And then as it casts along the floor and go further away, it will kind of get softer and maybe a bit lighter, and eventually you might even get the softer edge or even lost edge. So that's depend. That's kind of like the rule of light and shadow. And if you if you're interested in more about digital painting and want to kind of get better at it, I would really recommend go to my website, theartclass.com, or you can go to gumroad.com/Xia Taptara or cubrush.co/Xia Taptara and download the Ultimate Digital Painting Volume 1 for beginners. It's about 20 hours, and I explain everything about the foundation, from drawing, getting shape, and how to draw a human figure, material study, all those kind of stuff that you need to accomplish this digital painting the right way. Creating a character, you can apply it to creating creature and all that kind of stuff. So now I add a little bit of form to the face. So basically we're almost done here, but not quite. We just got this base form, or a the form with the ambient light basically, and then just going to tweak some of the white of the eyes. It look a little bit too white, so I'm just gonna have to apply some color to it, and I would probably use a little bit of yellowish. I was thinking green gray in the beginning, the same as the body, but then I was like, it could have blend into the color of the body cell, so might as well use some yellow. It kind of make it look a little creepier. So I just use that on the multiply clipping mask. So I'm just gonna paint on top of the white of the eye, and also on top of the, the iris, right? Then I'll use eraser soft brush to kind of create a circular shape where the light would hit. There's two ways that I could approach the painting, like subtracting, which means you start out with the dark and you use an eraser to subtract the dark out, kind of like, slowly giving it light, or starting with the mid and then slowly applying shadow from the bottom and trying to create form with the shadow. And that's adding. Adding is adding the shadow, subtracting is subtracting the shadow out for the light. So erasing and painting are very important. So now we got a little bit of the yellow eyes, and I'm just going to use some eraser to erase a little bit, like the middle part. Just imagine this shape of the eyes is not the actual shape. So the actual shape is like a sphere, because it's like the eyeballs is a sphere, right? So you have to erase along this imaginative sphere that are behind those face, right? But the visible part are just only those parts that are blocked, or uh, that are kind of behind those eyelids. All right, so you only see the uh, the partial shape of the eyeball, and it could have cast shadow or something. So now I'm trying to make the horizontal line, or the ground, so that the cat could stand on, and I could cast a shadow for this cat. There, I think that should be about right. So I'm just gonna fill in the color, dark gray maybe. Okay. And just gonna paint. I should have just filled in with the bucket, but either way works. This just takes slightly longer by seconds. But the workflow, the more efficient you can eliminate the waste of time in your workflow, the better. Like if you get faster by 1 or 2 or 3 seconds, it's even better, because in your process, if you add those up, it could accumulate into minutes, and if you're counting days of working, it could accumulate into hours. So those little things of efficiency or shortcuts, or anything that you can do to improve your speed or quality, those are very important in the production work, basically. And usually the top edge of the sky will be darker than the part that is closer to the horizontal line. Horizontal line will always be the lightest part. Like from the sky coming down, it will be darker toward the lighter. The horizontal line will be lighter, and toward the sky will be darker. And I think I explained this in many videos. So as you go up, it's kind of like you draw a perspective line. You go up, it becomes closer, and the closer object has more intense or darker value as it closer to you, and further away you have depth of field, so it would kind of make it lighter because of the lighting. And but that's also depending on the situation you're in, like if you what kind of lighting condition, what kind of variable you have. But rule of thumbs, closer darker, further away lighter, always. And that's, you also have to take the local color or local value into the consideration. All right, we are going to start adding the directional lighting. So let's make the selection of the cat using those the modifier. Then I'm picking another layer and make it overlay, and I'm just gonna pick a little bit closer to white and make sure that it's cool color or toward the cool side, kind of like blue or something. Then I'm just gonna use hard edge brush and just painting it there. There we go. So just kind of imagine the shape of the sphere for the head, and a little bit of the muscle on top of the nose, like the nose bridge for the cat. And right now I'm zooming out so that I can see the overall form and how the light will be on the surface of the body, and how if the form will look okay, things in that nature. And then I'm going to slowly using eraser and erase some part using maybe softer brush, or some part using hard edge. So that depends on the surface. If the surface is smooth, then you might want to use a little bit of a harder edge, and or if the surface got blocking by some object and cast a shadow on it, you could have the hard edge too. Or if the plane or the lighting has some sort of abrupt changes, then you could have a harder edge. To me personally, when I create this type of strong directional lighting, I usually like the harder edge more, because it make me have to make decision, and usually it will end up looking better than when everything looks too soft. So you have to use them wisely, soft edge and hard edge.